When Pete Denahy was 13 years old, he went to his first Slim Dusty show. 12 years later, he was in Slim's band. Since then, he has released 5 albums, won 5 golden guitars, and hosted huge shows like Star Maker at Tamworth Country Music Festival. And he is one of the funniest, smartest songwriters around. He's also back with Slim's band to celebrate the music of Slim with Travellin Still, a show that's about to get on the road for new dates. Hi, Pete. Great to talk to you.
Hello, Sophie. Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me. Welcome to my little shed, workshop, messy space, songwriting studio, the whole lot. Yeah.
Where the magic happens, as people like to say.
Oh, well, some of it does anyway. Yeah. And I've also, I've done a bit of home brew down here as well. So,
Oh,
yeah,
my
it's a
word.
little den of happiness down here.
I think that's a very good way to describe it. So, like, if you've got the home brew there and your instruments, you're well set up.
Yeah, well, yeah, my instrument. I got my guitar right here. Actually, just as you were, just before, as you were dialing up this thing, I was actually working on a song. So got
Oh,
the
there you go.
pencil and pad out today and having a bit of a crack at the old trying to get creative.
I think you succeed a lot of the time being creative. But I'm going to take you all the way back to when you were 11 and you decided you wanted to be a country singer. Now, why was it a country singer specifically?
Well, it's funny, it's such a simple thing to explain that for me. I grew up in a house. I'm the eldest of four, and I grew up in a house that wasn't into country music. I think we had one or two country records in the collection of all classical stuff. So I got brought up on classical music, which I still love. And we got taught piano as kids, and then I started learning violin.
So we've had a little change of scenery from the intro because Pete's in a beautiful part of the world, Yakandanda, and
Yeah,
sometimes the internet reception is not what we would hope for. But I am going to ask you now, Pete, at 11, you decided you wanted to become a country singer. Why specifically was it a country singer?
It's so. I'm glad I'm able to define this. I can almost put it down to timelines when it happened. So when I was about 9 or 10, two movies came out in Australia: The Man from Snowy River and Far Lap. And The Man from Snowy River has been a favourite of mine ever since. I just loved that movie, loved the poem, and then Far Lap, the movie itself. I really loved that connection between Tom Woodcock and Far Lap in the movie. It had a big impact on me, and I just wanted a horse. I just simple as that. I just kept saying, "Can we get a horse? Can we get a horse?" And we finally got some couple of ponies, and the bloke that helped us get them was involved with the local camp draft. So we went to the camp draft, and all of a sudden you're in amongst hats and spurs and stock horses and dust and cattle and the smell of the whole thing and the barbecue and just the trucks and I thought, oh, I should start listening to some country music, and someone lent me a tape of the golden anniversary tape of Slim.
Right.
And then I started requesting Slim Dusty on the local radio. And Mum had an old guitar sitting behind a cupboard that she'd had when she was in her 20s, and I asked her if I could borrow that and start using it. I wanted to play some guitar, so I got a book from the library and I started teaching myself some chords, and that's how it happened. And I'd written a poem called "The Silver Brumby" when I was 11. So I started learning to teach myself guitar when I was 12. But I wrote this poem. It was like my version of The Man from Snowy River in a sense, but it was based on the Silver Brumby books by Elon Mitchell from Corrion. And I put that to music, and that's sort of where it started, really. And and of course back then, especially when my voice broke, I just tried to be like Slim. I just wanted to be Slim. I couldn't see how you could get it wrong if Slim had done it. I couldn't see how it could fail if I sang like Slim, And then as I got older, of course, I found out, well, Slim had already done it. You've got to do your own thing. You've got to be yourself.
Right.
But so I went to see Slim when I was 13, and then I turned 25 on the first tour with him in Charters Towers 12 years later. So, and like 12 years doesn't seem that long now. What is it, 25? So 2013, 12 years ago. And it seems like yesterday. I'm 52 now. But when I was 25, that 13 years or 12 years that was half my life. Well, that was my whole life again. So it seemed like a long time to get to that point. But and a lot happened in that 12 years. But it was a wonderful thing.
It's a wonderful thing. It's an extraordinary thing because when you think you were, I love the idea of you calling the radio station as a kid to request the songs because they probably didn't have a lot of kids requesting Slim Dusty songs. But also
Yeah.
to actually make that happen, to as you said, you wanted to be Slim. And a lot of people will have those dreams. They want to be like their favorite musical artist and dream of perhaps of being on stage. You actually got yourself into Slim's band. So I'm really interested in what happened in the intervening 12 years. I know you're mainly known for being a fiddle player, even though you do play guitar. So what was your musical development as an artist in that time that led you to be in that band?
I was writing quite a few songs, and what happened was I did a small, very low budget CD, my first one, when I think I was 18 when I did that, or 17 or 18, and I went to Tamworth as part of a competition called Star Maker. You know Star Maker? Oh yeah, okay.
I've seen you host it. I remember being in the press pit looking up at you thinking you just were so at ease hosting that thing.
Oh,
It's such a thing to do.
well, yeah, and I was in it for 91 and 92, and then in 93 I had a bunch more songs. I must have been writing quite a few back then, and I wanted to do another record, and we wanted to sort of, I guess, go with the best we could find, and we thought, oh, it'd be great to do it with the guys out of Slim's band. So we contacted them, and I recorded that CD when I was 19 at 301 Studios in Sydney, in George Street, I think, with Rod Coe, Mike Kerrin, Ian Simpson, Alistair Jones, and Rob Suter, who was that Slim's band at the time. And so I got to know that I already knew Mike Kerrin, the fiddle player, and I just sort of met them here and there. And of course, going to different places, I bumped into Joy McKean and I bumped into Slim here and there, but I never sort of thought that I'd ever be in the band. But because you sort of get to know people down the track and they can see what you do, Mike Kerrin had to leave the band for a bit because he went off with an Irish dance show playing fiddle in that, and I think they were travelling overseas at the time. And I got a call from Rod Coe because I was playing full time in a band in Melbourne, playing fiddle in a band. We were doing all the Irish pubs, and then I got a call from Rod Coe for early one year and said, "Look, would you be interested in joining the band down the track? It was sort of October." And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to. This is something I'd always dreamed to do." And I think it was the following July that I joined in '98. And I replaced Mike Kerrin at the time. So, and then he came back. We were in the Solomon Islands with Slim, and I remember we were sitting down at this little restaurant, and then the news came in. Slim said, "Oh, Mike Kerrin's coming back," and I remember thinking, "Oh, there goes my job. It's been nice being in the band. It's been great fun, but I'm out now." And Slim said, "But we'd like you to stay. We'd like you to stay. You can do some of your songs in the show and play a bit. Mike will be doing most of the fiddle, but you'll still play a bit of fiddle." And that's how it turned out to be. And it was so I joined as a fiddle player, but then I was sort of more doing comic relief in the show. And
Right.
yeah.
Which is phenomenal because obviously Slim thought, well, this is not a person I want to let go. So he essentially, it sounds like, changed his show so that you could be part of it still.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it like that, but it was. I think originally when they thought of me for the show, it was actually to do comic relief.
Right. Okay.
Because they already, or just a guest spot in the show. Because when I joined, Rue Arcus was doing a spot and Carol Young. You remember Carol Young, who was with the Green Cards?
I don't, the name is familiar, but I can't put a face to it.
She's in America now. And of course, that was interspersed with the McKean sisters and Anne Kirkpatrick and Joy McKean. They weren't always on the road performing, but often they were. And then when Mike Kerrin came back, I was doing a spot in the show, mostly comedy stuff.
Right.
So, my stuff now is more. I play more guitar than fiddle in my own show, but if I'm playing in someone else's band, it's usually fiddle.
Mm-hmm. And I think 3 of your golden guitars are for fiddle or fiddle related activities.
Yeah, they were the years that the really good players didn't enter.
I did see you put something on. Tom Curtin was interviewing, and Laura Frank were interviewing you at Tamworth this year. So this is on social media, and you were talking about some competition where you thought, "Oh, I'm in with a shot here to win," and then you saw someone else who you thought was better, and you said to him, "I don't want to win just because you didn't enter," and then you came second.
Yeah, that's right. Oh man, that was. I'm glad I did it though, because it was true. It was the heats of the fiddle contest, and probably the last really good bluegrass comp they had in Tamworth. I think it was '96, because they used to have flat pick guitar, mandolin, fiddle, flat pick guitar, mandolin, fiddle, and banjo. They were sort of the main. It was an instrumental bluegrass category, so they didn't have singing and bass playing and that sort of, or harmony singing, but it was all just those instruments. And I'd come third a few times, and then I turned up for this heat, and you look around, all the fiddle players. I'm thinking, oh man, yeah, that's when I thought, oh, well, I've got a chance here, because sometimes you turn up to heat and go, oh, so and so's here, I'm not going to win this. And then I saw Nigel, and my heart sank. Nigel McLean. I thought, oh, bummer, there goes my chance of being Australian bluegrass fiddle champion. And then I went, and he had his fiddle with him, and I went up and wished him good luck, and he said, I'm not going to win it. And it was the way he said it. It sort of, I thought, what are you talking? Just that sort of, couldn't be bothered sort of thing. And I said that to him. I said, it was pretty presumptuous of me, but I just said, look, I don't want to win this thing because you didn't go in it. And and then he went in it, and of course, second prize. So it was, but if I had have done it, if I had have won that plaque or medal or whatever you got, I forget what the prize was. I wouldn't have really felt right about it.
Right.
I possibly wouldn't have felt right about it anyway, but having him there would have made it worse if he was just standing there watching me.
Well, and competition keeps things sharp,
Yeah, it's a funny thing, competitions. I've done a few of them, and they were so nerve-wracking, those bluegrass comps, because they were blind. The judges couldn't see you. So they just had to go on how you played, how it sounded. Of course, most of them knew who you were because they knew your style of playing. And what I used to say to the judges, if we're talking to the judges the day before, we knew who they were. You say stuff like, "I'll just give you 4 taps on the bridge before I start the tune, so you know it's me." All that, and they go, "No, don't do that." But they were good. It was they've got their good and bad points, competitions, and being nervous. I get dreadfully nervous doing that sort of thing.
That's interesting, considering how many shows you've played and different sorts of shows too.
But competition's another thing.
Right.
If you're getting up there and you're being judged and you're going to get a score for it, that's just like to me, that's another galaxy from getting up and entertaining.
Right.
Because if you muck that up, it doesn't really matter. Like you can score off it. It can work to your advantage, but or I try to use it to mine anyway, because it happens so frequently. But when you're playing in a contest, oh man, that's look, I went in a contest in a fiddle. I went to a fiddle convention in North Carolina, a little place called Sparta, North Carolina, and we were there at this fiddle comp, and Elliot, my wife, and we drove in, and on the gate I said, "What's it cost?" And they said, $10, but you get it back if you go in the contest. Oh, righto. So they had a vocal section, because I listened to the fiddle players. I thought, there's no way, no, I'm going to compete with these guys. You sit in a jam session over there with a 10-year-old fiddle player who's whipping your butt, But I thought, oh, I'll give the singing a go, So I got up there and I actually sang a song with the fiddle. and once again didn't win. Came second though. I came second.
You got your $10 back.
Got me $10 back, and I got a check for $25 for a ribbon and a check for $25, which I thought I can't cash that. I got to keep that.
Yeah.
Although
Maybe
it's worth nearly $50 now.
with the exchange rate. True.
Yeah.
Now, all of these skills you have learned, you put to very good use at every Tamworth Country Music Festival. We talked about competitions there, but you host this breakfast show that's been going on for years, and it's like every morning of the festival. And every year I think, how does he do it? Like, it's almost 3 hours every morning, and it's not as if your voice would even be that warmed up. So I'm guessing you enjoy doing it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's a weird. It is a weird time. I like if I had to choose a time to play it, it would never be 8:30 in the morning. I do vocal warm ups on the way. You know, because you're always sort of croaky at that hour of the day, and just driving to the gig going, oh, you know, all that, and then because it helps. And look, by the time I get into the, you know, third set, you finish it, you go, oh well, it's all over. But it's been, I don't know how many of them I've done. I should count. I've got no idea because we
For
used
as
to do
long as I can remember, you've been doing that. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
West's, but it used to be always at West's.
well, it is still at West. So Tamworth for me started. I've only missed one since '91, so I think I've done 34 now. So when we first went to Tamworth, the first few years, we used to play at the Long Yard because Ted Egan was hosting a show out there, which was fabulous. It sort of seemed to go on. It was like a show that went all day. You know, he'd have Grant Lurs on, he'd have someone else on, he'd have Acoustic Shock, a bluegrass band on. Then he'd get us on. We'd do a set, our family band. And then that turned into us doing a few shows at the Long Yard. And then we started doing family shows at West's in that same room I'm playing now. We did that for easy 10 years, I reckon. And then my siblings all started, you know, getting married and moving away and having kids. And then after that, after I got married, I decided to stop doing because we didn't have the family band anymore. So I just started doing. I did a few years where I did just one ticketed show, which was good, but it meant I was just sort of going to Tamworth essentially for one gig. Whereas, and then a few years later, that's breakfast space opened up again, and I got offered that. And I thought, oh, why not? You know, I'm going from ticketed show back to shows that are free to the public, but I'm getting to play every day. And it's always a good kickstart for the year, Tamworth. You know, you finish those 10 shows and think, oh, right, we're ready to hit the road.
Yeah.
We're sort of ready to go now. So I just do it basically with two good mates of mine, Aaron McLean on the upright bass and Jeff Mercer on electric guitar, who's also in Slim's band. He was Slim's guitar player. And we used to do a bluegrass brekkie too. Before Jeff was there, we had Matsumoto, Japanese banjo player who lives in Tassie now. And we do a bluegrass brekkie. Now it's more sort of honky-tonk stuff, but we still do a bit of bluegrass.
Right. Well, and yes, the mention of Jeff is a great segue to talk about the show for which you're doing 4 dates in Queensland. The show is Travellin Still. It is sounds and stories from Slim Dusty's catalogue. How do you pick which songs to include that? Because the catalogue is vast.
It is. Yeah, you've got it. We sort of started with the last shows that we were doing. And really, I guess that means you've got to start with the big hits. You know, Lights on the Hill, Leaving the Long Yard, Course Pub with No Beer, Biggest Disappointment. And then so you start with those and then you sort of build around it. And you're right, it's hard, especially when we want to, you know, like I think, oh, I'd love to throw that song in the show. And then you look at and go, okay, so what are we going to throw out to get this in?
Yeah.
We do the odd one that's obscure. Sometimes I chuck in one called Rough Riders, which is one of his old rodeo songs, and that's got a bit of a yodel in it, and it's just a personal favourite of mine. But if we've got to chuck something else in, like There's a great Stan Costa one called Catching Yellow Belly on the Old Barcoo. Well, that's probably more of a crowd favourite than Rough Riders. It's probably got more of the general appeal. More people who know it. So yeah, it's difficult like that, but and we've got songs that we sort of will do sometimes and won't do others, But there are songs like Old Time Country Halls, so I love that song, and I also love there's some of the ones that are specific to Queensland too, like Isa Rodeo, Cunnamulla
Yeah.
and sometimes one of his more modern ones is Charleville. Like we don't do that one that often, but that's Don Walker wrote that, and it's a good rollicking song, and a lot of people know it.
Right. And yes, 4 dates in Queensland: Bundy, Kingaroy, Pomona, and Brisbane. So because I imagine, particularly with this sort of show, that choosing the locations could be a little bit contentious. There would be fans in certain spots who be like, well, why aren't you coming here? So how did you end up choosing those 4 locations?
That was really up to the promoters. We didn't, as a band. Oh well, I mean, the promoters came to us and said, "Look, these are what we're looking at," and pretty much in that situation, if we don't have any objection to it, we like everything goes ahead. So we didn't have any objection to it. We did have a few more shows out sort of west that we ended up having to cancel, which we hope we can get out there again. But Queensland, like Pomona's probably a little bit. I don't know that we ever played Pomona with Slim, or certainly not in my time. But Brizzy we did, Kingaroy we did, and Bundy we did, and it'll be great fun getting back to those places. Of course, people say, you always get people saying, "Why aren't you coming here?" or "You should come here," or "Why don't you come to South Australia?" And we'd love to. We'd be there in a flash. It's just a matter of being able to get a run. When you got
Yeah.
5 in the band, and then you got to get a minimum, usually a 2-man crew. You can get away with a 1-man crew, but there's travel, there's accommodation, all that's flights and everything. That's all got to happen before you can put the show on. So it's not like me just buzzing off solo with my 2 little 10-inch speakers. It's a whole production,
Yeah.
worthy of Slim Dusty.
Of
But
course.
it's a good fun show, and I think the relationships between all of us on stage comes across. Not it's not something that I'm conscious of when we're on stage, but I've heard people say that they notice they really you see them looking at us. Oh, they get along well. I don't know whether any of them in there sort of hoping that we have a bit of a punch up on stage or something like that, but we do get along well, and I think they can see that the relationships between us are genuine because we do feed off each other.
Right.
Because we're good mates, it's makes a big difference, and it makes a difference when you know the stuff. We don't have to read charts or anything to sort of
Right.
we know the stuff backwards. It's most of it is the arrangements we were doing with Slim or
Right.
Joy or Anne, and we can just sort of enjoy the music then and not have to concentrate on are we getting this right. Although there are some, I've got to say that sometimes if we haven't done a show for 6 or 7 months and we get in there and I'm doing most of the singing, and it might be just as I'm starting a song, I think, ooh, I really should have run this I should have just run this in the dressing room before I came out. That's happened a couple of times. And not thankfully the words seem to arrive when they got to. But see, once again, that I've mucked up a few things, and I've just made it known to everybody. So, buggered that up, and no one really cares.
In fact, I think they like it. I think it makes it more memorable when they're a
Yeah, I
mistake.
always tell people that at least we're not miming.
Yeah.
It's all back in tape.
And you don't really want to know, pull out the phone and be Googling like lyrics to the song. If you,
That's a pet hate of mine.
yeah.
Yeah, reading lyrics off a phone. Oh no, I'm not.
And yeah, look, if you made up some lyrics in some of those songs, I think a lot of the audience would presume it's part of the show, actually, particularly
Yeah,
with
Slim used to do that. There were a couple of times that Slim had just. I mean, it happens sometimes when you're singing. People would probably be surprised at how often this happens. Is when you're singing a song. I imagine I'm speaking for other people too because I can't see it just being me. sometimes you can be singing a song and you can be thinking of something totally unrelated to the song. Like I could be singing a song and thinking, you know, wondering what's the minimum time to cook chicken drumsticks before the meat's falling off the bone, or it could be anything like that, you know. And you just before you know it, you're into a chorus and there's the end of the song.
Yeah.
Or I'll be thinking while I'm doing a song, I'll be thinking, what song should I do next? Like if I'm doing my own gig,
Yeah.
I often don't. I often don't have a set list when I'm doing my own gig. So sometimes I'm singing something. I wonder what'll work well with this crowd after this,
Yeah. Right.
and that's often what I'm thinking about. And I'm singing a heartfelt thing that's making everybody cry, and I might be thinking about, I don't know, you know, would I go faster down a water slide if I didn't have a t-shirt on? You know, I don't know, all that sort of stuff.
Well, I do love that you mentioned your own music because that's actually where I'm heading next because you have released so many great songs and you have this incredible knack of writing these songs that are very funny, but they're also, as far as I'm concerned, the most succinct, elegant depictions of modern life, sort of
Oh,
under the guise of comedy songs. And I'm thinking of me, I'm thinking of KFC, and I'm especially thinking of looking at my phone.
oh, KFC. There you go. There's one I haven't done for ages. I did that nearly a year ago. I had some kid request that at the Yakandanda Folk Festival. I had to learn it up to sing it for him because it's not a song. You know, I've written a lot of songs that I don't sing live, and if I don't do them live, I can't sing them because I haven't learned them properly. So,
Yeah.
and sorry, I interrupted you there.
No,
So,
that's right. No, I was just saying, like me, which is about taking selfies. KFC, looking at my phone, and I'm curious whether you keep a list of subjects that you want to write songs about.
oh, not really. I've done two phone ones now.
And we will
A
get to the new single or the latest
couple
single,
of 12.
rather.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. What is? Oh, that's the phone song too. Oh, that is the other phone song.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't. Look, comedy songs I've found them hard to write over the years. They come a lot slower to me than other stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
But I, but lately, in the last 12 months, I've had a little bit of a run, probably more of a run on comedy stuff than I have for a long time, and it's quite heartening because that's I can never have enough comedy songs. I've got a lot of straight stuff, but in a live setting, that's what, right or wrong, people sort of expect that from me.
Mhm.
And I've sort of got past that age of wanting to be taken seriously. If I did a show and I knew that the bulk of people there wanted to hear my straight stuff and not the comedy stuff, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
But if I go to a show and people have come there specifically, and the majority have come specifically to hear sillies, I'm happy to do that. Just whatever's working for the show. Um, if I'm playing, say, at a bluegrass festival, I'd do less of the sillies there.
Right.
Um, last time I did bluegrass festivals here, I was just playing fiddle in the band without playing guitar, so most of it was pretty much straight ahead bluegrass stuff. A lot of original stuff, but old
Mhm.
stuff as well. But the comedy, yeah, I don't have a list. I just got to sort of wait for an idea to pop into my head. I get a lot of suggestions. People say, "Oh, you got to write a song about this," or "This happened to me. This will be a good song," or "Gee, you can make a song out of that." And I never get a song out of it. I don't. It's got to sort of the idea's got to amuse me at the start, and there just a funny anecdote to me doesn't necessarily make, or for me doesn't make a really. I don't think. I'm just trying to think of. Oh, probably some of my early comedy stuff was anecdotal, or it might have been a story that I made up that sounded
Mhm.
like an anecdote, but not so much now. Although, oh no, hang on, no. Come to think of it, I've written lately. I've done a few songs like that. That's complete nonsense. Edit that out. But I don't. Yeah, it's funny with writing comedy or any songs really. I try not to make it in general too literal.
Mhm.
Like this happened, this happened, this happened, then this happened. Um, because I think it makes a song more interesting if you've got a few little images in there. It doesn't always work that way, but that's what I try to do.
Well, looking at my phone has one of my favorite lines of all time, which is "I love and care for all my friends, but always on my own." And I just, when I first heard that, I thought that is like the most perfect description of life with phones and social media. And it's just concise. It says it all. And I'm wondering, when you wrote that, did you have like this eureka moment and go, "That's it. That is it. That's the line."
You know, you're the first person I can remember that's ever mentioned that line. When I wrote that, I thought, oh, I was happy with that line. Sometimes you just get thrown a line from wherever it comes from. And you go, oh man, I'm glad I'm going to write that down before I forget it. And I sing it live, and I look around, and I think, I sort of, well, perhaps there are reactions in the audience, but I don't tend to see them.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad you said that, because that's to me what it's like people sitting there liking or loving what someone's written.
I'm
I'll
laughing
give you
thinking of it. Pete, I'm even laughing
well
thinking of that line and how you deliver it.
the part of the it's got a sad aspect to it too, because I was at a gig once, and there was a young guy in the audience who had been sending me these messages,
Right.
that he was going to be at the show, all excited, couldn't wait, can't wait to catch up. And you sort of from the messages I was getting from him, it was almost like I was envisaging this energetic young bloke who's coming up. Oh yeah, I play a bit of guitar, mate. I'm really looking forward to. Then I've been writing a few songs, and and thanks for the show. I was expecting that sort of. Anyway, I met him, and it was almost like I was interrupting him from his phone. You know, and for much of the show, he was sort of, he's watching a bit, and then he'd go back to his phone. And I thought, okay, so when he's sending me these, oh, I can't wait to see your messages, he's just, it's like that, and I think a lot of people do that. Like, there's, oh, fantastic, we've got to catch up, can't wait to see you, all this, blah, 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 lots of love, kiss, kiss, hug, hug. But when they send the messages, they're just there, and I think, oh, that's sad. Like,
Yeah, there is that
and
poignancy to the line. Yeah, absolutely, because I think it really illustrates the conundrum about connection in the modern age, which is the our brains can think we're connecting with each other because we're loving and caring for all our friends on the phone on
yeah,
our
yeah.
phone, but like it's in our brains. It's like, oh well, I've made that connection, but we actually haven't.
No, and it's never going to go away.
Yeah,
It's like, I have plenty of people say to me, "Well, I'd rather buy your CD than listen on Spotify. You don't get anything for that, do you?" And I think, well, no, I don't. But Spotify's there. I'm not going to take the songs off Spotify. It's there. I know it's there. I know my songs are on it. If I don't like it, I'll just, I'll take. I really appreciate people saying that, which is very kind of them to say that. But that it's there, and it's not going away. Phones are there; they're not going away. That's just, it's people that get addicted to them, and the best you can do really is to try to break the addiction, I guess, because it is. That's exactly what it is. It's an addiction that everyone's got nearly. My
yeah.
younger brother's not like it. He doesn't have Facebook or Instagram, no social media, and his life is much better for it. And if I wasn't in this job, I wouldn't either. I've actually made a point. Now here we are. So I'm saying this when I'm hoping that lots of people watch this video, but as you are. But I actually, one of my New Year's resolutions was to really limit scrolling time, to the point where I've taken the apps off my phone, because I get on there and I just find myself, if it can go for ages, as we all know that feeling. And it started with me just around Christmas. I signed off before Christmas. I said, I'm having a break on social media. See you in the new year, which I did. Right? And for that week, I got to say, in my life, I could just notice an instant improvement in my life. Didn't have that distraction. Wasn't forever reaching for that little device just to see who loves me now. So it's sort of, yeah, it's a weird thing. It's there to start. We're getting very deep here, so very, very deep. But yeah, that's what I feel about it. Uh, just like you disconnect from that connection. Like we're even to the point of having to take your phone everywhere. You know, I've said to my wife a couple of times that next time I go to town, I might just bloody leave my phone here and
Yeah.
take my wallet. Like, why do I have to be instantly contactable all the time? The only time you can't contact me is when I'm on a plane. And even then you can. Like if
Yeah.
you've got Wi-Fi across Australia, you can just stay in touch. It's just like we lived all right in the, pre-90s before it. We were all on time. If we said we're going to be somewhere at 10:15, you were there at 10:15.
Yeah.
You didn't have this little device in your pocket where you could say, oh, I'm running 10 minutes late,
Mhm.
So look, I think the world, I think social media is one of the worst things that's ever happened in the world, but it's not going away, and we just got to, use it the best we can. So
Well, that's yeah.
what a miserable thing to say, but that's what I reckon.
No, I think it's a question of using it for good, not evil. And I realize because I hear people saying how they get so miserable looking at social media. I think, well, I realize that I don't scroll. Like I'm not a scroller. I make that stuff. My decision wasn't to make
I can see that in your face, Sophie.
stuff.
I can see that in your face. Yeah, yeah. Look, no, look, and that's sort of what I do too. I guess I try to just post stuff because you've got to, you know. I
Yeah, that's
enjoy
it. You
doing it
have
too.
to. That's what it is.
I see it. I see what I do on social media, anyways. Most of it's just stupidity, and I just see it as an entertainment thing
Yeah.
to let people know when the gigs are, and to a bit of entertainment there. They're very, very light, um, unsophisticated entertainment. But I don't. Yeah, I try not to scroll myself. And you're right. What you say about it's very interesting to hear you say people get anxious and depressed about when they scroll, and that's exactly what happens. I wrote this little song, which I don't know if I'll do anything about. Like everybody else's life is better than mine, and
Mm.
that's what it's like when you're scrolling. It doesn't matter what job you're in, whether you, I don't know, you own a cattle truck, or you're a singer, or you're an artist, or you're a comedian, or whatever. And those people in your line of work pop up, and you scroll through it, and you end up sort of thinking, man, they're getting a lot more work than I am, or gee, look where they are, look what they're doing. I wish I was doing that.
Yeah.
And when you don't scroll, you don't have to do that because a lot of it, because there's so much of that. Oh, I don't know if false perception's the right term, but this perception happens on social media. So I can go to the supermarket here in Yakandanda, and people who I see up the street say, "Oh, you're home. You're home for once. Does Ali recognise you?" And I think, isn't that funny? I'm home a hell of a lot more than I'm away. The
Right.
bulk of the time I'm at home. Ali and I, as a married couple, we probably spend more time together than many, many married couples. But because of social media, a
Right.
lot of people think I'm away all the time. I'm in out of the country. I'm in Japan. I'm in Europe. I'm in America. I'm in Tasmania. Up north. That's what they think. That I'm away all the time. And the fact of the matter is, um, I might be over at that Foodworks supermarket much more than them, pinching those bloody reduced items that they'd like to get.
Good old food works can be found in
Yeah,
many
yeah,
country town. Yes. And look, the phone does feed into your latest single, which is photos on your phone, which is another contemporary classic because I like the way you keep raising the stakes throughout the song. Really, of people showing photos, and then it's like, that's it, no more. I don't want to see
yeah,
any
yeah.
photos on the phone. And I'm just going to mention the single because actually, I would like to talk about the song "Sort of Dunno, Nothin,"
Oh, yeah, yep, yep.
which is just the most glorious piece of minimalist text, great delivery, and a perfect encapsulation of what it's like to have a conversation or lack thereof with a teenage boy.
Yeah, well, So did you want to talk about the phone now? Or?
Well, no, well, we'll talk about sort of Dunno Nothing, and then I'll come back to. I'll
All
come.
right, yes, I sort of don't know nothing. I was writing for a record I recorded called Picture in a Frame, and that's on Spotify and Apple and all that. And that had a song on it called The Ringing of the Steel, which is about an old blacksmith. And I was writing for that, and I was sitting down every day with my, paper and pen, and for sort of like 9 to 5, I was just treating my writing for that record like a 9 to 5 job, and I'd have my little breaks here and there. 3 weeks, I was sitting in front of the paper, jotting a few lines down a day, nothing much. And I was still pretty serious smoker at the time. And I had a break, and I went out the back and I was having a cigarette. Had some friends coming up that afternoon. And I was sort of rehearsing my conversation with them. Like, what have you been doing, Pete? And I just say, nothing. Been doing nothing for 3 weeks. I've been sitting there doing nothing. And then that took me back to a mate of mine who told me when he was a kid that his mum would say, "Where'd you go last night, Mick?" "Nowhere." "Who'd you see?" "No one." "What'd you do?" "Nothing." And then I thought, oh. So I had a riff on the guitar that I was working up, and I thought it might end up as a fiddle tune.
Right.
That intro you hear to sort of Don't Know Nothing. I thought that was going to be a fiddle tune. And there have been times where I thought, oh, I still should perhaps make that a fiddle tune. But I used that as a sort of a vehicle to start it. And within an hour, I had that written, and I recorded a rough demo of it. And the song itself, as it is now, is I don't think it's changed at all, actually, since that first. Of course, there's no story, there's no singing, there's no rhyming. The hardest part of that song really is remembering where you are, because there's no story.
Yeah.
And I still muck it up sometimes, but it was an interesting thing, because every time you write a new song, it's the best thing you've done. If you look at it, if it's not totally crap, every new song's, oh, this is good, this is good. And then sometimes you just got to step away from it, look at it again a few days and go, no, maybe not. But with sort of done, I made the mistake that I've done plenty of times. Actually, I don't think I've done it with any other song but this one. I said to Ali, this one's going to pay a few bills, And she listened to it and went, well, do you think so? I don't know. Anyway, I started singing it live, and it was going all right, And then I recorded it, did the video clip, and it sort of, for its time, went viral.
Right.
It's not viral. Like, if you look at the amount of hits, the amount of hits it's had since we put it out is sort of like the amount of hits something viral now would probably get in 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
But it was viral at the time. Everyone called it viral because it just looked good on a bio. But all these things started happening. So the song was getting airplay, the video clip was getting shown, and a lot of people knew the song, but they didn't know who did it. Like, if you spoke to someone, oh, you see that teenager song last night on Spicks and Spicks? Oh, yeah, yeah. If they said, what's the name of the bloke who does that? Oh, I don't know. And I was actually singing it at a club somewhere, and my brother-in-law was there. And he told me later, he was standing next to a bloke while I was singing it. And this bloke turned to him and just said, gee, he does a good version of this. He goes, it's my song, mate, my song. And I did a couple of other versions of it. I did a version on Big Brother. I got flown up to the Gold Coast to do a version of it for an elimination round of a show that I've never watched in my life. I didn't know who any of these people were. I've never watched the show before or since. And that's just the sort of person I am. And then the morning shows did it on them, and it was a mad little journey for a while, that song. But there's still plenty of people who haven't heard it, and it still works well live. I did a version of it in Japan once, which I still have to do. I've got to learn that up again. And I'm going to the States in October, so I'll give it a crack over there as well, because it's sort of a universal thing. But the funny thing was, Sophie, when I first wrote it, I had a teenage guy in mind. You know, I had one of our nephews in mind. But I also had myself in mind when I was being asked to do a job, or I was being spoken to when I was tired, you know, by Ali, something like that. And when we went to do the video clip, I said to the bloke, Ross Wood, who directed it, he said, "We'll have to get someone else to be in the clip with you." And I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "So who do you want me to be in the clip? Am I asking the questions or answering?" He said, "Well, you're asking. We've got to it's about a teenager." And that was, when he said that, that was actually the first time I thought, oh, okay. So it's just about a teenager. I thought it could be equally about just a non-responsive husband. But as time went on, I thought, oh, no, it is just a teenager. And that's what everyone came to know it as. I've often thought it'd be good fun to do a female version. I've had the odd thing live where, you know, there'll be a young bloke in the audience and who knows the song, and you get them up for it. And the audience loves that when they know the material. And a couple of times I've had girls get up and do it, and that's a lot of fun too, because you just get a different. Because girls can be like that too. It's not just boys. But my wife and I, you know, unfortunately we don't have kids. It's never happened for us. But and I've had a lot of people say to me, "Oh, you must have kids." No, I don't. But I don't think you've got to have kids for that song to ring it or resonate with you, because if you got nieces or nephews or mates, kids, you know, you're exposed to that anyway.
Yeah. I originally did not think of it as a teenage song, actually. It was only in the reading about it that it was like, oh, okay, it's just for teenagers, because I think it's an Australian folk song in a lot of ways. That
Yeah.
Monosyllabic responses. If you did a girl's version, the intonation would be different, I think, because it's sort of like a nothing sort of thing.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Nothing.
Well, actually, I finish off the song now with whatever when I do it live.
Right. Okay.
And that really came from someone suggesting I do a female version, and he said to me, "Oh, you'd have to put whatever in there."
Yeah.
But there's a lot that's not in there too. I mean, I look at the questions every time I sing. How's your ankle? I don't know why I wrote that line. And the bloke said to me, well, in the studio when I was recording, he said, that line, how's your ankle? Where'd that come from? It's like a sport injury, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's
what I always thought it was. Sport injury.
Yeah, and that's all it is. That's all it is. But, you know, looking back, I probably could have come up with something different. I mean, the song could be rewritten any number of ways. You know, it's just an idea, really.
Do get ankle injuries because it's a really mobile joint, and if you're doing contact sports in particular over, you know, or running. But look, I've had you talking for a while. I am going to wrap it up on your latest single, which is Photos on Your Phone, because it is another phone song, but it's a different take on it, because it's not about social media. It's actually about the habit of people saying, why don't you look at my extended suite of library of photos?
Well, it can be about social media, but yeah, I just focused on the photos. Look, it's for fear of sounding like a grumpy old bugger. You know, I wrote this song and I thought, I wonder how, you know, I wonder how it'll go. And the first time I sang it to a small audience, they started reacting to it in a positive way, and they, you know, I could see some of them pointing to each other, going, "Oh, that's you. This is about you." And I thought, oh, that's good, because I realised I wasn't the only one that, when someone pulls their phone out to show you a photo, 99.9% of the time, when someone does that to me, I'm only pretending to be interested. That's a guarantee. I'm very good at going, oh, yeah, right. Oh, you know, but it's totally fake. And unless, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of an example of last time I looked at something and it interested me. Maybe it was, the bloke who built, Joe Gallagher, who built my guitars. He'd made a new guitar and he was showing me this, and I was very interested in that. Or a fiddle repair that someone had done. I was very interested in that. But everything else, no. People describe things to me sometimes, and I like their description, and then all of a sudden, they say, "Oh, hang on, I'll show you." And I've actually said to, "I believe you. Don't worry. Leave your phone there. I believe you." Yeah, it's just, and the trouble is now that I've written that song, I can't do that to
No,
anybody.
that's right.
I do it to my wife sometimes. So just have a look at this. But we've made a point to, I mean, I know it sounds like a big hate session on phones, but we don't take our phone if we go to out for a drink or we go out for coffee or out for a meal. No phones.
Mhm.
No phones there. Not looking at messages while we're talking to each other or texting anybody or taking photos of our bloody food and sending it off. No, just so that yeah. And the phone, that scrolling through the phone thing. It's funny, both my phone songs. I've sung them in live settings, and there'll be people there on their phones while I'm doing it. So what do you do?
What do you
What the hell do you do?
what
But
you do is hope they're taking photos of you and uploading them to their social media accounts, Pete.
yeah, for people to comment, what are
Yeah.
you doing on your phone?
Yeah.
That's the other thing, watching shows through your phone.
Yeah.
Like it's not, sometimes it's nice to actually just have the memory, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking
But
about the
like I
other.
say, it's never going away. It's here to stay. So
It's never going away, so we have to find ways to use it for good, not evil. Pete, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you about all sorts of things. I feel we could talk for hours more because I know your career has been is so varied now. So you will be on the road with Travellin Still in Queensland in late February, early March, I think. And then I'm sure the rest of the year holds experiences. You go to Japan often a couple of times a year to lead.
yep,
People
heading
can
off
go to
there
your
in a few
website,
weeks. Yep,
right?
yep. So that's good. And going to Ireland and Scotland in August. I'm doing a John Howie travel right tour, so people can get on my website or Facebook. I've got details on there. We've got some spots left, so that's a 3-week tour, and it includes the Edinburgh military tattoo,
Mhm.
and plus a lot of trad music through Ireland and Scotland. And I'll be doing a few songs as well, and talking a bit of nonsense on the coach. So it's a lot of fun. People want to come along.
I think that would be classified as a guaranteed good time traveling with you if you're going to put some material in there. Pete, thank you so much for chatting
You're
to me.
welcome, Sophie. Thanks for having me.